soul. I love all humanity. Join hearts and souls together.
Welcome to Love, Peace, Harmony Live. Kickstart your week with the uplifting energy of the Love, Peace, Harmony field. Relax, connect, and explore new ways to experience peace and transformation. Check out highlights from the Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation and see the amazing impact of our volunteers worldwide. Feel the power of our song and transformative art and be inspired by guests who are transforming their lives and communities with these tools. Discover how you can be the change and create positive transformation in the world. It's time to elevate your week with Love, Peace, Harmony Live. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Love, Peace, Harmony Live, where we are honoring the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation to honor Indigenous resilience and the effects of systemic impact of the residential school system through the empowering, enlightening, and inspiring voices of some of our Indigenous elders and leaders today. Today invites us, especially as Canadians, to acknowledge the past and understands its effects, as well as commit to a positive change and reconciliation in our daily activities, in our speech, in our thoughts, in our actions, and how we show up in the world so that we can create a more inclusive future where Indigenous voices and contributions are fully recognized. And of course, we know the future is now. So today is that day, and we are very excited to be using our Love, Peace, Harmony Live platform to be sharing some of these voices. I'd like to shout out our Sean and Kim, who are community members who have been connecting us with some amazing voices to be shared today. So today we are going to start with Gray Cloud, James Carpenter Bear and Crane Clan. James Carpenter is a recognized Indigenous traditional healer and helper. His First Nations ancestry is from the Anishnaabek, Mississauga First Nation of Alderville, Chippewa, and his ancestry is from traditional territory around the Great Lakes. So we are very excited to have him here to share with us his ancestry from the Upper New York State and Cree Nation from the shore of James Bay. He continues to reclaim his Anishnaabek, Chipewyan, and Cree languages, and James specializes in providing Indigenous traditional healing services and sacred Indigenous ceremonies to children, families, and communities. So Miigwech James, we are very excited to have you here today sharing with us and very honored. So let us go to this amazing video sharing and interview now.
Ani Bojo, everyone. My name is Wabanakwet, and what that means in my very sacred language of my nation, it means Gray Cloud. My government name that's been shared with me from birth is James Carpenter, and today I've been asked by my friends to share a little bit with everyone about I guess somewhat we might call relationships, and what some may call reconciliation, and what that may look like, or what that may feel like as an Indigenous person. So as an Indigenous person, that has always kind of felt it within me, felt it from my head to my toes, that some of these lands that you see behind me, and some of the lands that are this way, and some of the lands that are that way, and some of the lands that are that way and back there, those lands of Mother Earth have always been home to, my family and my ancestors. And because it's always been home, I feel a certain connection to home. But as an Indigenous person, that connection to home has been very, very deeply impacted. And of course, and I'm very thankful and grateful that, that we're all trying to, help repair that, help repair, our relationships as Indigenous people and the world. Indigenous people, our relationship, our connection to all of creation, to us is a very, very sacred thing. Everything in that creation, and I mean everything in that creation, from the lands to the sky, to the clouds, to that water behind me, to that grandfather's son, everything in creation is our relative. And as our relative, we think of all of these spirits. We think of them as beings, as spirits with life, this land that we stand on, that sacred water, that sky, that sun, Grandmother Moon when she comes out tonight, the wind, the breath of life. We think of that relationship as something very, very sacred. And that relationship being sacred is about every living being in creation. That there's a sacredness to them, a sacredness to those beings, to that essence of their life. Which of course also means that you are very sacred. And that sacredness, we all feel it when we talk about relationships. And I wanted to share as an Indigenous person, as an Anishnaabek person, as a Chippewa person, as an Oneida person, as a Cree person. These are my relatives. My grandparents are in the sky. My grandfather is that sun. His friend, his partner, his relative, grandmother, the moon, is my grandmother. That sky you see, we say that's our father. Father sky. This earth that we're all on with our feet, where we stand, that's our mother. Me and you and all of creation, all of the land, all of the trees, all of the animals, all of the birds. These are all the children. These are all the grandkids. That medicine blanket provides everything for all of us. Even right now, we can look at that water, we can acknowledge that sacred being, the bay, that water, as a beautiful spirit that helps each and every one of us. We're a part of her, she's a part of us. You feel that wind right now, you might hear it. That's the breath of life. We all have that. Miigwech to that beautiful amo, the breath, air. And we think of these as our relatives. And and I really want you to think of what that means, reconciliation, about a relationship between Indigenous peoples and the greater communities of where we may be living, some of us. There's so much to learn. about so many things. The reason why we're able to share now and learn is because of that truth and how that relationship that I'm sharing with you a little bit about, how that was impacted. How that was impacted, I think, for lots of different nations. As we were learning how to remember our sacred way of life. Reconciliation for myself, I am just seeing as an Indigenous person very beginning steps of how that might empower me as an individual. But as an Indigenous person, you can share with creation that gift of that sacredness of your life while you're watching this video, acknowledging your relationship to everything. Acknowledging even your relationship to me, to yourself. You can take that time and acknowledge, that for the most part in North America, everywhere we go, everywhere we step, everywhere that we visit in North America, we are standing on some of the very sacred homes, sacred homelands of so many different Indigenous communities. This is all home. As an Indigenous person, it's sometimes hard to feel that home when everything around Indigenous people has been taken. If I go over here and you come look at this way a bit, you'll see a fence over here. This fence, that is a space that lets me know that I can't pass that fence. I'm not trying to go over there and take anything from there. And it is no much different from me being right here, right now. But as an Indigenous person, that's hard to see. That's hard to grasp. But it's a little bit different for Indigenous peoples to see a huge it's just difficult. It's difficult for our people. Difficult still for our communities. And we're doing lots of great things. And we're on our healing path. And so, the road's been difficult, maybe not by your personal choice. Maybe it wasn't part of what you were doing. Yourself, people around us. But a big part of the relationship building is just learning that this is how one Indigenous person thinks. That I would like to remember my relationships to everything, even the flyers everywhere. So with that, as an Indigenous person, it's about honoring that relationship with the sacredness. That's what reconciliation may look like to me, is honoring that sacredness. And with that, I say, miigwech, and I hope you learn some good things. Miigwech.
Miigwech Grey Cloud, we are so grateful for you sharing today with us and this most profound reminder to honor the sacred in every moment of our daily life as much as we possibly can, and to honor these sacred lands on which we stand. Many of you know that I came from another very sacred land in Mexico very recently while working on a project there. And I'd like to share with you a beautiful rendition of Love, Peace, and Harmony from our most beloved community in Mexico. So let us play this now.
Nosotros somos el Calpuli
Inchancingo Mixcuatecutli.
Amo mi corazón y mi alma.
Amo a toda la humanidad. Unamos corazones y almas. Amor, paz y armonía. Amor, paz y armonía.
Amo mi corazón y mi alma.
Amo a toda la humanidad.
Unamos corazones y almas. Amor, paz y armonía. Amor, paz y armonía. Amo mi corazón y mi alma.
Amo a toda la humanidad.
Unamos corazones y almas.
Amor, paz y armonía.
Amor, paz y armonía. Amo mi corazón y mi alma.
Amo a toda la humanidad.
Unamos corazones y almas. mi corazón y mi alma.
Amo a toda la humanidad. Unamos corazones y almas. Amor, paz y armonía. Amor, paz y armonía.
Amazing. We want to thank Enchancinco Mixcorecutli for the most powerful presentation. This, like, did you not feel the serpent energy? I just felt like with the rattles and the chanting and that like consistent melodic, it was so powerful. It's like this portal open as we were listening. And we want to thank you so much for sharing this most powerful rendition of Love, Peace, and Harmony, and for sharing your potent magic and beauty with us. And we want to welcome everyone, especially if you're joining for the first time, who may be wondering, what is Love, Peace, Harmony? What is the Love, Peace, Harmony field? Before we jump into our next guest. So Love, Peace, Harmony is a 501c3 charity founded in the United States, and we have operational volunteers right now in 31 countries. And you just heard a version of the Love, Peace, Harmony song, which is currently translated in over 90 languages and counting. And this beautiful song, as well as our calligraphy art, activates this invisible vibrational field that we share within communities, that we utilize to uplift the frequency and vibration and join hearts and souls together and truly bring transformation, bring community together, and really raise the vibration to bring healing and enlightenment. It's very profound, and we have some amazing projects. Most recently, we actioned orphanage in Uganda partnership with Massa in Lake Victoria area. We have a beautiful school in Ecuador in San Pablo in the province of Bolivar that we will be supporting 200 children for their healthcare, for their school, and more. And we will be sharing more projects, as well as the 230 community service active projects that we currently have through our most amazing volunteers, who we want to shout out and say thank you for everything you do every single day to share love, peace, and harmony. You are amazing, and we are so grateful for you. And we want to thank everyone who's with us right now. I see Jean is joining us, saying hello from South Africa. Hi, Jean. Sabine says this is very heart touching. And Colleen Hala sending love to everyone and everything. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. So now we will get into our next most special guest of honor, Jake Agoneh, and he is a cultural and spiritual doctor, herbalist, and specialist in Indigenous spirituality. And he shared with us a little quote. He says, "I am Jake Agoneh, and my spirit name is Ga Gek Ga Ge Ga Do. I am 65 years old, and I have been a resident of the Shingwanda First Nation all of my life. My life of healing began in my teenage years. Culture and spirituality were not in my life when we were young, reason both being parents were forced to attend residential school in Spanish Ontario. Nevertheless, my common-law spouse was totally interested in our culture. This is where my journey began. It was a healer from Red Lake, Minnesota by the name of Adam Lassiere who could see that I was meant to be a healer. I had to do a 4-day fast to get started. One of the things that Adam shared with me was just getting started doing this work. The more work you do, the more the spirits will work with you. So I have been doing this work since 1998 for 25 years. Some of the work that I specialize in is doing bone doctoring, dispensing herbal medicine, sweat lodge, and teaching of the Anishnaabek culture and spirituality. Presently, I am semi-retired, but I am still looking forward to teaching people. It doesn't matter the age, about our culture and spirituality. Miigwech. Jake Agoneh. So without further ado, let us hear from him himself, Jake.
My name is Shelba dear. I am an Anishnaabek, and I'm also a Haudenosaunee. My spirit name, or I should introduce myself in the language, so Naha Bojo Maskwa Shika Kwa Bashkanim Gat Kwa Dishnakaz Wabcheshi Dodem Shegwanda Donjaba. So I introduce myself in the language. I have two names. My first name is Red Turtle Woman. My second name is Seeds Starting to Break Open Woman. I'm Martin Clan, and I'm from Chipewyan First Nation. Right now, I'm in the midst of transitioning to becoming a facilitator instructor to facilitate lessons for Indigenous children on mental health and culture. And I'm also Oshkabewis, so I am a helper for ceremonies and that sort of thing. But I also do energy work like Reiki and work with crystals and stones and my secret items and my bundle that I carry. And I do teachings.
Good morning. My name is Jake Agoneh. My spirit name is Gagek Gagi Gadok, and I'm a member of the Chipewyan First Nation here. This reserve has been my home for all of my life. So this is my home here, my community. I do work as a traditional healer, and I've been doing that for the last 40 years. So I've seen a lot on what I believe people should be starting to focus on, truth and reconciliation. It's been a long time coming, but I don't know if I can turn anything around. And the only time people really change is when they eventually enter a crisis, and that's the only time they really look at change or changing their lives and that. Eh? My thoughts on that truth and reconciliation is we look for that truth, and that truth is there's only one truth, you know, because it's part of our being that flows from our spirit and our heart and that. So language of the heart is the truth. So are people being oppressed since 1876, since the time of Confederation? And Sir John A. Macdonald was the Prime Minister at the time, and he said he was going to civilize the Native people. And so he put them in these schools called residential schools, where the objective was to kill the Indian within the child. And I think that's the worst thing ever happened, because a lot of the things that happened from there on, the parents at that time, you know, it's just like their purpose was gone because their kids were ripped away from them, and they were forced into these schools. And some of these kids never returned home. So really sad time. And I think the really great thing about Native people is, you know, I thought there'd be a lot of anger when that first came out, and they're doing it down in Toronto. They're talking about truth and reconciliation, and so yeah, people need to be educated. It needs to start in schools and needs to go all over. And so, you know, things have to change. And the way I see it is, our people, the Native people, are the spirit of this land. And how you treat that spirit is, you know, that's why this country will never move forward, because what they've done to us and what they continue to do to us and how they continue to oppress us and that. So in turn, we can't do nothing, you know. I guess my bottom line for truth and reconciliation was they need to listen to the Native people and where they be, and, you know, their story. And, you know, we're not poor people, you know.
Back to the whole truth and reconciliation, it's not just a day where you wear a shirt one day out of the year. It's to be that way for the rest of your life, to help one another and share and network and have an open mind and heart. And like I always would say, even if you don't follow these ways, that's okay. Even if you're not a really spiritual person, as long as a person's willing to start learning or understanding or educating themselves about our way of life, and to understand how we think and look at things, because our culture is different from the Western world, right? We live by the heart and not by the head. or at least we try to live by the heart, but but we're only human in the end, so no one's perfect, including myself. But people don't take this thing seriously, you know.
I guess this just remind me of what weren't sure that it's not just one day, and the people need to be reminded every day, you know, what was done. We wear those shirts all the time. I think this is a big thing, truth and reconciliation, because they need to own up to what they've done to our people over time and where we are at now. So they need to acknowledge all the hurt that their ancestors have brought. But like I say, you know, life is about living and learning, you know. We need to get back to that. And I always felt that it'll be the Native people that teach the whole world how to be human again. And what I always say is we'll teach them how that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. You know? So once that all starts coming together with time and forgiveness and everything, you know, and like I say, I first heard that a while back. They're talking to Toronto there, and they said, you know, I thought they were just going to talk about being more angry about it. But that young girl said, "We forgive you." I thought, wow, you know. But we do anything wrong, they can't seem to forgive us. Or just like what they had that thing going on in the States there about water there. What was it, Missouri River?
I'm not sure.
And that big thing they had for a couple of years there.
Was it the pipeline where they wanted to go through the waterways?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was Native people standing up for that.
So when I say the ways of the longhouse, I don't know too much about my Mohawk roots, or at least not as much as my Anishnaabek side, because I was raised by my Ojibwe mother, not so much my father's side. But from my understanding is obviously the people of the longhouse, like I probably can't even say it properly, but I'll learn the word like Haudenosaunee. It just basically means people of the longhouse, right? And a longhouse were these big structures, right, that were built by the Haudenosaunee people, or people who fall under that were like, you know, the Mohawks, Cayuga, Seneca, Onondaga, Tuscarora, and Oneida, right? What is now known as Six Nations. And they say some of those communities, like back in the day, like even when the settlers started coming, you know, the time of, you know, Samuel de Champlain, or even the time of Christopher Columbus, like around that time, these communities would have like up to a population of 300 to up to maybe even like 2 or 3 or 4,000, or maybe even higher than that. And everyone would live in that longhouse. Like they'd have like 4 or 5 or 6 longhouses, and everyone lived there as a community, you know, under the same roof. And the ways of the longhouse is basically how I refer to like the ways of the Anishnaabek, right? So the ways of the longhouse are the ways of their culture, you know, their teachings, their ceremonies, the storytelling. Like I've only attended the longhouse, I'd say a few times, or at least in the last 4 years, I've only been there a few times, and they do everything in the language. They don't speak any English. And when they do their ceremonies could take hours or days, right? Like I've never been to one of those ceremonies. Like if say they were talking about the Great Law of Peace, I heard those ceremonies could go up to like 10 days, you know, and they acknowledge everything, like every little detail, you know. My sister was even sharing with me, there was one Mohawk from New York State. He would come all the way from New York State and travel all the way to Kahnawake. So the difference with the Ojibways and the Mohawks are, us Ojibways could do, or Anishnaabek, we could do our ceremonies anywhere. Doesn't matter where we do it. But as for the Mohawks, or the people of the longhouse, they have to travel to communities where there's designated longhouses, right? And some longhouses will accept you, some won't. It depends on their protocol. So for me, I had to travel all the way to Ganawage, which is about 9-10 hours away. And they would share things like the Thanksgiving address, like, you know, stuff like that. And even in the ways of the longhouse, like, it wasn't just ceremonies and telling stories and teachings. Like, a big part of what they did in the longhouse is they would dance too, right? And everyone in the longhouse would get up and go around, like the Mohawks go counterclockwise. So that's how they do their ceremonies. And the Anishnaabek go clockwise, right? So I always like to say, oh, I could get away with going both ways. It doesn't matter because I'm both. But when I went to that longhouse, did they ever dance hard? You know, it was nice seeing the whole, like, everyone in the longhouse get up and dance around the longhouse, right? Just playing their shakers, and I think they had a drum in there too. But that's what the ways of the longhouse is. It's their spirituality. It's a big part of their customs and their way of life.
So hopefully somebody will take something out of there and use it to help themselves or change the direction they're going in life, you know. And even with the non-native, you know, that they'll wake up and say, hey, let's listen to these people, or let's, you know, let's support them. You know, and like I say, you know, we're living like in a third world country. The reserves, that's what the reserves are like. And I have to go back and I think about my friend there. He's saying, you know, what can you teach people to just follow these things? And, you know, and I listened to him, and it made a lot of sense. And then what he was talking about was the government, just making people becoming complacent, be satisfied with next to nothing, you know. But even though we have nothing, we're ready to share our nothing with everybody, more or less, you know. So it's all around us all the time. The spirituality is all around us all the time. People just have to open their hearts and minds to just allow it to become part of their spirit, and not just practice in one day like this, but make it something that goes on and on, you know, to learn more and more about where the people are at and how to struggle in that, you know. We're not struggling just because we want to struggle.
But, you know, we need to move forward, because, like, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with feeling anger or hurt or bitterness. I mean, like, in the end, we're all human. We got to acknowledge these emotions in order to release, forgive, and let go and move on. But one thing I do want to share, if people do exhibit any anger or even grief, but to learn how to deal with it in a healthy way, because there is such thing as healthy anger, right? So when we have these things like even Truth and Reconciliation or Every Child Matters, Orange Shirt Day, or we have to overcome that anger. We have to overcome that pain and that grief and that sadness and all those emotions that are encompassed in that, right? And we have to start moving forward, like acknowledge the past, heal, forgive, let go. But we also have to start connecting the dots or building relationships with everyone, right? Everyone, and find initiatives to help bring truth and healing to a people. That's what Truth and Reconciliation is all about. Those words, reconciliating, right? So you're, well, what does reconciliation mean? It just means like working something out, right? So, and I think our culture and our spirituality is a big part of that, and it needs to be acknowledged and taken a little bit more seriously and not be like a trend, right? And that's it. Gotch.
Thank you.
Miigwech, and thank you so much to both of our amazing guests, Shelba Deer and Jake Agoneh. We want to thank you so much and for sharing your wisdom and sharing your experiences with us. And I'd like to also do a post-introduction to Shelba, as I didn't do that before we started. So Shelba, as she shared for herself, but I would like to share a little more that we have. If you're in our newsletter, you'll check it out. So Shelba is a ceremonial helper and healer of Anishnaabek traditions. She leads workshops, ceremonies, and teachings on Anishnaabek culture, spirituality, and land-based community art. From 2021 to 24, she co-led the Kagwang River Stories and Chipewyan Summer Stories program for children and youth. Shelba has guided cultural teachings and educated communities on Indigenous allyship for various organizations, and also led the Chipewyan First Nations First Water Walk and completed a 4-year commitment to the initiative. A recent graduate of the Social Service Worker program, she continues to integrate Anishnaabek culture into her work, aiming to support the well-being of our community and future generations. So we want to thank you, Shelba, and thank you, Jake, and thank you, Sean and Kim, who you also saw pictured there, who have been an incredible support, connecting us with an amazing range of Indigenous community supporters, leaders, members, and more as we ongoing to collaborate together in love, peace, and harmony. So next we have another sharing from Dan Ducharme, and Dan will be coming straight on. We don't have a specific bio for Dan, but he's going to be sharing also about his wisdom, experiences, and perspectives with us. So we want to welcome you, Dan.
Hi, my name is Dan Ducharme. I'm a member of Doki's First Nation. I'm also a member of the Thunderbird clan, and my spirit name is Ceremonial Eagle Whistle. They used to use ceremonial eagle whistles in the past to call people back to prayer, back to ceremony. The fear of being known to the government was passed down to my grandfather, that never applied for his status card, never applied for his old age pension. He lived without running water and without electricity all of his life. I work for the federal government, and it's been 16 years now that I work there, and it took me, before I self-ID'd, to be known as Indigenous. It took me a good 10 years before I did that. The National Day of Truth and Reconciliation is to acknowledge the truth, to know the truth, to reflect on the truth, and then take action. Someone uses the term reconciliation, and I love that term, because reconciling differences and reconciling relationships takes action. Before several apologies from the Pope or the Prime Ministers, I used to compare truth and reconciliation in terms of, if a neighbor punched you and then came over and acted as nothing had happened, would you reconcile that relationship? That's why I say that there has to be action, there has to be acknowledgement. Truth must come first. It's not, it wasn't a mistake. They didn't call it reconciliation and truth. It was truth and reconciliation for a reason. Truth must come first. Education got us into this mess. Education couldn't get us out. When will truth and reconciliation be done, or when will our people be reconciled? That'll take a long time, but when there is no more overrepresentation in prisons, overrepresentation of Indigenous peoples in child services, overrepresentation of poverty. There are so many remaining effects of colonization and the residential schools, in policies and procedures and laws. These must be fixed. I know that there's an UNTRIP action plan where the government of Canada has committed to align policies and laws with the UNTRIP, the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It has 46 articles. What you can do to advance truth and reconciliation is learn, be open to the awareness, expand your awareness. Read the Truth and Reconciliation Report. It's 6 volumes, so it's really long, but at least read the 94 calls to action. Read the UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, or the 232, I believe it is, calls to justice from the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Reconciliation will be complete once Indigenous women are not 12 times more likely to go murdered or missing than other women in Canada. Colonization. Our first contact in Canada happened in 1492. Colonization took 500 years. To decolonize, it'll take a while. But it's opportunities like this that bring me hope. Opportunities like these to share my voice and for others to listen to our voices and to acknowledge and reflect on the past treatment of Indigenous peoples and consider how your communities and your people would be affected by the treatment that the Canadian government treated our people as. Thank you.
We want to thank you, Dan, for sharing, and oh my goodness, so profound, so meaningful, so many actions, and how fitting to start with reconciliation. So I want to encourage us all, go back, take Dan's guidance on what we can do. And I want to also take a moment to just honor you and honor everyone who's taken the time to watch this, to be here with us. And it brought so much warmth to my heart to hear Dan talk about opportunities like this, to be able to just share their voices and share our voices and have them heard. And that's exactly what this is about, is using our platform, using the Love, Peace, Harmony Live to empower Indigenous voices, as you will see more of. And we are so excited. I want to share one of our comments here. So grateful for these sharings that help to deepen our understanding of this beautiful culture and tradition. This truly is the time for healing. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we have different time zones, people all over the world. So Miigwech Dan, thank you for sharing with us. Now we have one final short video to share with you before we go today, and that is of our time in Ecuador when we were there last year. We had an amazing celebration I lived with a week for an amazing Indigenous family from the Quechua traditions in the Cotacachi area in the Andes Mountains. And we also stayed with the local community leader, Miguel Calapi, and his son Inti, who showed us around, and his daughter Waida. And they're an amazing family, beautiful community healers and leaders. And they also did this beautiful rendition, Miguel Calapi and his son Inti, of Love, Peace, Harmony in Quechua. So we are going to check out this version of Love, Peace, Harmony in Quechua, and also stay tuned because we are in the final stages of editing our documentary for our time in Ecuador. So we are so excited to share it once it launches, and we will have a special celebration for that. So without further ado, let us go to this version of Love, Peace, and Harmony. Oh, I think it cut off there, but you can see the full version on our YouTube, and it's so moving. I love rewatching that moment, just reliving that moment. Beautiful seeing them together, and there's an extended version, and it's just so profound and beautiful, the way that they are flowing, the language and the melody and the music. It was really profound, and I'm excited for you to see also the interview with Miguel Calapi, because he shares how he uses the Love, Peace, Harmony calligraphy, and especially the Lulali soul language version of the Love, Peace, Harmony song in his traditional Indigenous ceremonial healing. It is so profound. I am so excited for you to witness and experience this, and take a moment to just thank all of you right here. What a great time. Very grateful. We have people joining us from the Netherlands. So thank you so much for being with us today. As always, check out lovepeaceharmony.org. You can donate to support our own ongoing programs. You can go to our store to get your own Love, Peace, Harmony card, Love, Peace, Harmony song player. We want to especially thank you, Miigwech, to all of our guests today, and to Sean and Kim for supporting us, for bringing everybody together. And thank each and every one of you for joining us and for everything that you do in every moment. Like was shared, it's not one day to wear a shirt, it's every single moment of every single day of how we can continue to join hearts and souls together in collaboration, in creation, in upliftment, in support, and more, and create and embody that world of love, peace, and harmony that we know we have the power, we can, and we will, and we are creating. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We look forward to being with you again next week. And until then, sending you all love, peace, and harmony.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next week for more inspiring stories of transformation and community impact from around the world. Become a Love, Peace, Harmony volunteer and be the change you want to see. Join us again on Love, Peace, Harmony Live for a dynamic meditation experience with new guests every week. Connect to the Love, Peace, Harmony field and stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation for all of our updates. Support our projects by donating today at lovepeaceharmony.org. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, have a Love, Peace, and Harmony week. Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next week for more inspiring stories of transformation and